Just firstly, apologies for Clinton this afternoon. Unfortunately, he had some family business that he had to deal with and had to pull out last minute, so I've been sent solo to hold the fort for ActewAGL. Firstly, I'd just like to start with giving you a little bit of a background about myself. As Ross said, I started with ActewAGL in 2009 as mature age apprentice. I was 28 years old when I started. It was a big career change for me. Before that, people had mentioned sort of your blue collar or white collar background. My family was definitely the latter, the white collar. My dad was an accountant and my mum's worked for the public service for years, and it was naturally expected for me to, when I finished school, go to uni, which I did. I went and studied science at ANU and did a Bachelor of Science with honours in chemistry at ANU. After I finished the degree, I was at a little bit of a loss as to where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, so being a good Canberra girl, I applied for graduate positions in the public service, of which I picked one up with Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. Then sort of over the next 4 years, I was fairly transient, travelling across 4 different departments, and I actually finished up with the AFP in their forensics area I think my title was Chemical Intelligence Officer, which people would probably think, having done chemistry at uni, was my niche. And in certain ways it was, but the area that I was in was a data centre which dealt with highly classified information. And unfortunately, a frustration I found was I had all this knowledge and ability to decipher information and disseminate it to emergency services, but a big loophole for us was a lot of the time the information we had was too highly classified to actually get it to the people that needed it. So yeah, I felt a little bit lost and didn't really know where I was going or what I wanted to do. So I had what my friends and family have dubbed my quarter-life crisis. And over copious amounts of wine and chocolate and talking with family and friends, I decided I wanted a new path and try something different and something new. Essentially, I went back to what do I love doing and what did I love most about science. And for me, it was that hands-on element. It was the problem solving, the tinkering, the working out how things worked and then trying to make them work better. So I had a few family friends who had gone down the trades, in particular one an electrician, and I thought, well, you know, it's got the physics background, the science, that's what I'll do. So I started to look around applying for apprenticeships, and I accidentally fell across ActewAGL as a possibility in Canberra. And one of the things I sort of noted earlier from what other speakers were saying about certainly the attracting process and how you actually sort of gain the apprenticeship things. And when I was at interview with Actew, there was 2 focuses. One was that you are a female, so you are a risk to us in terms of how the other tradespeople will treat you and whether or not you can complete the apprenticeship. But I also had another side of the coin, which I'm sure a lot of the other guys weren't asked, but was that because I had higher education before, they said, what's stopping you from getting bored or at the end of it going, now you have another trade, you're going to go back, you're going to disappear, all that sort of thing. So I sort of had a few different challenges in actually gaining the apprenticeship, but thankfully they did decide to take the risk, and that's sort of where my journey started. Today I just want to talk to you about a campaign that ActewAGL actually ran back in 2010 to try and start to actively attract more females to the trades. Currently, ActewAGL has 3 different types of trades. There's the electrical fitters, and we actually come out with a full electrical licence at the end of that. There's lines workers and cable joiners. In 2009, sort of the end of my first year, they sort of revamped and relaunched a women's network with ActewAGL called Women in Utilities. And it was at that launch, I was one of the few people to rock up in fluoros. Unfortunately, the other girls who were electricians had changed, but nobody informed me about that. So naturally, people at an event like that were attracted to me. And I was fortunate enough to meet the CEO, Michael Costello, and also our Director of HR, Tanya Hutchison. And they were particularly interested, especially with me being mature age, but also just what attracted me to the trade and why I chose to do it and what they could do to help actively attract more females. After having a chat with them, one of the main things I did bring up with them and was a challenge and a frustration I had was it was very difficult to actually seek an apprenticeship. There's a lot of support and a lot of information out there for current apprentices, but someone actually trying to find an apprenticeship, it was very limited. And it was very difficult to actually find paths and people and find an employer. As I said, I only fell across ActewAGL accidentally through a family friend who had gone through back when it was the ACT Electricity Authority, and he sort of said, "Why don't you try them?" And yeah, I found out that they had a fantastic program and fantastic conditions. So one of my big things that I said to them was, you need to promote yourselves better. There are people out there that don't know that you exist and don't know you offer these apprenticeships. And also secondly, when it came to the actual female recruitment, and it was similar to what Bob said earlier in the day, was that there needs to be more direct targeting of those people if they're the people that you want to attract. So yeah, everything happened fairly quickly from there. I got together with HR, and I think at the time there were 2 other female apprentices and 1 female electrician. And we got together with HR in the marketing area, and we sort of came up with designed a campaign and came up, scoped it out, and then next minute everything just went running from there. It was quite amazing how quickly it all happened. Previously, female application numbers at ActewAGL have been quite low and sporadic. I was the only female to apply in my year, so that was the 2008 recruitment process. And previous to that, basically they'd had 1 female apply every second year for about the previous decade. And before that, there was quite a large break in apprenticeships, female applications. What I sort of found was that they didn't really have any specific advertising campaign, and not only just for females, but for the apprenticeships in general. They pretty much relied on, we have an ad on the website and we'll throw an ad in the Canberra Times around September, October, which was recruitment time. So there was no real drive to actually attract people to the apprenticeships. So firstly, we focused on trying to widen the types of media that we used. They got into a lot of radio advertisement. They still continued down the lines of newspaper, but we actually looked at having staged campaigns throughout the year to try and let people, give them an awareness of ActewAGL, that we did have apprenticeships, and to keep an eye out come that September, October time. We did tap into television. Win News is our local network here in Canberra, and I actually did a story with one of the tradespeople I was with at the time. I think it was about a 90-second grab, but it was enough to sort of just say, this is who we are, we offer apprenticeships, and in particular, this was targeting females, so we were trying to get the females out there. In terms of online, we did have the website, but we also started posting little ads on Facebook, and yeah, certainly the posters, brochures people have been talking about. We did go to careers events, but certainly found that wasn't probably the best path in the end, because there's such a wide breadth of things at careers events that so many people were attracted to so many of the other things, whether it was sort of the military side of things in terms of paying for your study, whether it was gap year, universities, and it was very hard to compete in that market. So in the future, we're looking to actually target that a little bit better. And the other main one was to actually tap into sporting clubs here in Canberra. That you tend to find a lot more of the sort of active female set are more likely to want to go into a career that's more hands-on and physical. So one of the big things that we discussed with HR was that the campaign had to be believable, and this is just some examples of some of the brochures and things that went out and posters. And we said there's no point hiring a gorgeous model, sticking a tool belt on her waist and saying, come and be an apprentice. So we sort of said it has to be believable, and in saying that, unfortunately, we dumped ourselves into being a major part of the campaign, which, yeah, we were happy to do. Bex, the other apprentice, she was just short of qualifying when I started working on the meter there. And I think Ellen, it's a bit hard to see, top left corner, was an apprentice, third-year apprentice when I started in first year. So these were sort of things that we handed out at the careers fairs. A lot of it's not just a boys' game. What a Career with Spark was a lot of the newspaper advertising. And as I said, we sort of had 2 major targets where we sort of hit the March, April start of sporting competitions. I think we actually ended up being posted on the back of female toilet doors at Canberra Stadium. I've actually got one friend that plays AFL for a local club here, and she said that there's still a poster of me on the back of one of the toilets at the football ground. So she's sort of like, "Hi, Michelle," every time she goes to the toilet, which is a little unsettling, but she copes with it. So yeah, we did try and sort of really go out there and target the female market. Again, we looked at that sort of 16 to 30-year-old females. The sporting, I've already spoken about sort of the sporting groups, venues, events. In terms of the school careers fairs, we're hoping to in the future, rather than do the careers fairs, actually target specifically the industry technology areas of schools and actually talk to the teachers and say, do you currently have any females or any trade students that you believe, and it's boys as well now, that would be interested in apprenticeship and actually trying to maybe go and do some workshops with those groups specifically rather than relying just on the bigger, wider career fair. And yeah, a big part was actually promoting ActewAGL in the apprentice program. ActewAGL does have outstanding work conditions, some of the best I've definitely seen across the distribution industry. They have a mature age apprenticeship, which was crucial for me. As I said, I was 28 years old, I had a mortgage, I couldn't afford to go back to sort of first year apprentice award wages. And for over 21s, they have a fantastic wage. I think as a first year, I was earning more than most fourth year apprentices out in the industry. And yeah, the amount of additional training ActewAGL goes through, they actually have what's now called an ESI passport, which is electrical supply industry passport, and it's all of the sort of safety training around the distribution networks, and it's a nationally acknowledged system. So if I now move into state and go and try and get employed by another electrical company, I already have the necessary safety training behind me to be able to do that. And just the program itself, there's a lot of internal support for apprentices as they go through, access to past apprentices and that sort of thing. So we tried to really promote that. So some results from the campaign. We actually had 18 women applied for the apprenticeship in 2010, which was a huge increase from the year before where we clearly had 0. 11 were interviewed and 4 were deemed suitable. Of those 4, 2 were offered apprenticeships and 2 others actually took up positions as vegetation inspectors, and they've since applied in further rounds and become apprentices. And also a big achievement from it was also an increase of 58% in total applications, so that was the boys as well. So certainly the campaign actually helped get ActewAGL out there as a company and an option for people wanting to do trades. In terms of where people heard about the campaign, the radio advertisement, surprisingly, was actually the biggest contributor to where people heard about it. Certainly the, the online was the 13%. So certainly, and also I think Facebook, here's 7%. So add to that, 20% was World Wide Web exposure. And yeah, certainly some of your traditional mediums, your Canberra Times, just word of mouth, and the Canberra Weekly's a little local magazine we have here, was still really good at targeting those people. We probably didn't get as good a result out of the careers events as we thought. I mean, there it's only 2% in terms of where people heard from it, but as we said, that's because we didn't really target specifically probably the people in the areas we needed to, and that's something we're looking at trying to do better now. Future-wise, certainly it's given us a defined and structured campaign existing to attract females, and it also spreads to actually now giving us a base to, attract the guys as well. We don't want to forget about them. We've looked at it also being able to be modified for different socio-cultural groups or professionals, so engineers, technical officers, whether, as we said, looking at Indigenous or other cultural areas. And at the moment, we're sort of going through processes of tailoring the campaign to the level of recruitment requirements. The last couple of years, we haven't had as big a push because we haven't been taking on as many apprentices, but in the next couple of years, they're looking to double the apprentice intake. So we'll certainly look at what worked in the campaign and what didn't, and go forward from there. That's probably all I've got on the campaign side of things. But certainly one of the things that Actu is doing at the moment, and I'm having a big part in, is actually restructuring and trying to sort of revamp our apprentice program. We've been looking at, in the past, apprentices have often been used as a resource for certain areas, as opposed to actually getting the experience and the skills that the apprentice needs to come out as a well-rounded electrician or lines person at the end of their apprenticeship. So as part of that, we're trying to align the actual rotations we have within ActewAGL much better with the skills you gain at TAFE and the skills required of the industry. We're also looking at trying to set up a mentoring program for tradespeople. I think earlier, other speakers spoke about it being important that you got the right boss, often more so than necessarily even the right area, and there's certainly something that, and even the tradespeople themselves have noted that there's gaps in their level of skill to be able to actually transfer their knowledge to apprentices. So we're looking at trying to have a bit of a mentoring program there for them to help the apprentices. And also one that I'm fairly passionate about is actually setting up an alumni for apprentices, so that apprentices coming through can actually be helped by previous apprentices. one of the things I'm doing at the moment is I'm actually tutoring a couple of our current apprentices with some of the TAFE work and things, and it's been really effective, and in the process of me helping them, they've actually been able to help other apprentices going through them as well. Early on with ActewAGL, I actually received an internal award with Actew. They have a program called Shooting Stars, and they have different categories within that, and I won the award for top performance out of the entire company, because in the first year of TAFE, a lot of the guys had difficulty with the mathematical and technical concepts of TAFE. Having previously, well, studied and done the university study, I was able to help them out a lot, even just in terms of a lot of those guys. It wasn't so much that they didn't understand the concepts or weren't able to apply knowledge, but it was just simple things like not actually knowing how to sit an exam and how to prepare for an exam and things like that. So part of this sort of alumni process is I really want to try and focus on helping other apprentices, giving them the skills to be able to study at TAFE and get the most that they can out of that. And yeah, I mean, on that as well, the boys helped me out. I think people mentioned, Sue mentioned earlier about the guys helping her a lot with the tools and getting her through and things, and certainly that was the same for me. I mean, I'd come from a very tertiary education focused background. I'd done a little bit of pottering around at home with Dad and things like that, but yeah, the guys were a massive help in terms of getting me through some of the actual hands-on concepts, and I was able to help them with the higher level tertiary sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience, and yeah, I hope to continue trying to attract more females to ActewAGL and set up some better support networks within that. So thank you very much.